Yeah, so thank you, Sam, and thank you to the AAT for the opportunity, and hello everyone out there. So yeah, as Sam said, so I'm Paul Sharp from Easy Payslip. So I will try and spend the bulk of the time giving you an actual demonstration of our system so you can get a feel for how it works. I will also just tell you a little bit of insight we've got from our customers, which you might find interesting, and just a little bit about Easy Payslip, the company. So without further ado, let's get in there. So we exist basically to make payroll easy. We don't have any other products out there. We're basically all about making payroll as simple as possible. We've been around for about 18 months and our motto is anytime, anywhere. So the idea is that you can do your payroll using the website or on a tablet or on an Android phone or tablet or on an iPhone or iPad. And once you set up an account, you can access your account through any of those devices. We are very much driven by simplicity. So we are not the absolute answer for every small business out there. Our idea is to capture the most number of people in the simplest way possible. And that's important because you may have some questions that come up about particularly complex scenarios that we will not meet. Now, if we can find a simple way to do those things, then we will absolutely get on board with those things. But we won't, for example, introduce some complexity to manage one scenario if that complicates the standard payroll processes for all the rest of our customers. So for example, we don't do ABA files and we don't do award interpretation, but we are introducing a lot of new features along the way, and most of that comes from the feedback we get from our customers and more recently also from bookkeepers. I'll just tell you briefly about our plan. So our standard plan is $8.80 for 1 to 4 employees. That's per month without any lock-in contracts. For up to 6 employees, it's $9.95. For up to 10 employees, it's $19.95. And once you reach that plan, that 1 to 10, you can then add as many additional employees as you like for an extra $2 a month each. Now, I wanted to tell you just a bit about our customers, but I think I'll leave that till after the demonstration. I'll talk about what we've learned from our customers, and I think it's information you might find useful. But I think we'll just move on for the time being. So when you set up Easy Payslip, you can set it up and run it for your clients. You can have their clients do it on their own behalf, so self-managed, or you can do a split where, for example, the client might do it themselves, but you could have access and look at reports or generate, you can set yourself up to receive the pay slips, that sort of thing. So you have a few different options. Coming in August, we're introducing an intermediary dashboard. So what that means is you'll be able to access multiple customer accounts from your one bookkeeper or accountant login. And so that will just mean managing multiple accounts will be a bit easier. You'll have your own unique login and you can access all your accounts in the one place. For people who are self-managing, so for customers out there who are doing their own STP submissions, there is no requirement to contact the ATO and register. So this is a bit different to a lot of the other products out there. Registration, there's no need to contact the ATO, register an OST key or anything like that. It's all handled through the software itself. So you just need to set up an account with the software on the website or through a mobile device, and then you can start submitting STP files. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just get into the detail a bit and give you a demonstration to show you how Easy Payslip works. So there's a couple of different ways to access Easy Payslip. We have the app, as I've said, and we also have the website. Now, what I'd like to point out is we are not introducing the STP function until July. And we're doing that because STP works on year-to-date figures, and we didn't want to overcomplicate things for our existing users who, if they started using STP now, would then need to go and update all the year-to-date figures. So we're introducing that in July. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a demonstration using that new version on the app that will be introduced in July. It's very similar to the old version. It just has an extra step on the end. And I'll show you how to do that on the app. And then I will also show you how the website looks, and you'll see the steps, the screens are very, very similar. But when we get into the website, I'll show you the existing version, and I'll show you a few more complicated scenarios. And then I'll just show you a few other features. But what you'll see within the, say, 25 minutes we've got, hopefully I should be able to show you pretty much every single piece of functionality. There really isn't too much to it. The whole idea is we've created quite a simple solution to what we consider to be, it can be a simple problem. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is get my iPhone up on the screen. Okay, just bear with me one second. Okay, so what you're seeing now is a picture of my actual iPhone, which I've just connected to my PC. So what I will do, I will take you through the steps required to set up an account. So there's basically 4 steps in this entire process. First, you set up the business, then you set up employees, then you run payroll, and then you submit STP. So I'll just show you each of those steps. So the first step you do is set up your employer details. Now, I've already set one up here, but the screens to see are exactly the same, whether you're setting up or whether you're viewing them. So the first thing you do is you enter your ABN, and that does a lookup, and that will return your company name. So the company I'm actually using is Easy Payslip. Now, we can see up here, there's 3 little dots there. That actually says there's 3 screens of information. So we can use that next button there, or we can just swipe with our thumb just to move across between those screens. So I'm just going to swipe to the left to show you that next screen. Now, this shows us who the authorized person is. So this can be the business owner themselves, it can be their offsider, it can be their partner. Some of our customers, their mum in a lot of cases, who are helping out with their small business. If they're lucky enough to have a payroll or admin assistant, it could be that person. And then we've got the business address, and then I'll just scroll across to the last screen. And this is where we put the actual employee details themselves. So this might be the same as that authorized person, or this could be the business owner. So step 1, setting up the employer, that's all there is to it. Just those 3 screens, and then I can either back out if I've saved it, or click finish up if I'm saving it for the first time. And then it jumps me into step 2, which is where we set up employees. And I'll just show you how the app is structured. Down the bottom here, we have these 5 tabs. So that first tab there is employees. The next one there is payroll. The next one is STP. Then we have reports, and lastly, settings. So I've already set up 2 employees here, 2 employees, sorry. So I'm just going to go in and show you what one of them looks like by clicking on it. Once again, you can see the navigation. So there's basically 5 screens of information: details, payroll, entitlements, taxes, and super. To set up an employee is a matter of just working through those screens. So details here is the details of the employee. So I'll just scroll down and show you what sort of fields: email address, date of birth, phone number, address. That's it for details. Once again, we can click up there on payroll, or we can just slide across to the next screen, which is payroll. So here we have a job title. We have the employment term, either permanent or temporary. We have employment status. I'll just show you a drop down. So we just need to select out of the drop downs: full-time, part-time, or casual. Salary or hourly. Now, depending on what we select, either salary or hourly, certain fields here will open up. So we have this annual salary field here because we've selected salary. We choose the pay frequency, which is weeknightly, fortnightly, or monthly. And it defaults to 38 hours per period. However, we can overtype that if we need to, although you should be aware it's those 38 hours that calculates your leave entitlements. So if you're working if you're putting more than that in that period, you will typically accrue more than the 4 weeks annual leave a year. This hourly rate is then derived. If you choose hourly as opposed to salary, it will let you manually enter that hourly rate. And then we have some additional options for overtime and allowances. If you say no to those options, you won't get the opportunity to enter those details when you actually do the next step, which is running payroll. I'll now go on to entitlements, the next screen. So let's scroll across. And this selects what entitlements they get. So if they get annual leave pay, it gives you an opportunity here to enter their carryover balance, which you should just enter once when you're setting up the employee for the first time. And this is whether they get annual leave loading, personal pay, and long service leave. And again, you have the opportunity to enter carryover balances. And then I'll go to taxes. So this is where you enter the tax file number. You can enter the 9 zeros if you don't know it, which the ATO in the STP file will recognize. And we have some options here: resident, non-resident, or working holiday maker. And depending on what you choose there will determine what options come up in the next drop-down. So there are those options, and they will be different if you choose non-resident. And lastly, we have super. Now, there's only one mandatory field on this screen, which has the asterisk there, and that's the super guarantee rate. It defaults to 9.5%. You can overtype that. The super fund name, optional. That information is not passed in the STP file to the ATO. If you do enter it, however, it will appear on the employee's payslip. And that is basically all there is to the next step of setting up an employee. So now we've done steps 1 and 2. We've set up the business, and then we've set up the employee. Next thing we do is we run payroll. So we click on the payroll tab down the bottom, and we enter our periods. So I will do from the 1st of June to the 7th of June. I will then enter the payment date. So let's put the 7th of June for the payment date. And the payment type, this is for information purposes only. I'm going to choose EFT. So we select which employees we're paying in this pay run. Now this is important because this will determine which employees' pay details are compiled for this STP run. So you can have employees on different cycles. You can have some getting paid weekly on Tuesday, others getting paid weekly on Thursday, and others getting paid fortnightly. Depends who you select when you do this pay run. So I'm going to choose both Captain Hook and Tinkerbell, and then I'm going to click Process Payroll. And it comes up with our Process Payroll screen. Now, up here, it shows us exactly where we're up to. So it lists all the employees that we are processing in this pay run, and it will show us the status as we've gone along. Now, in a simple scenario where the employee works the same number of hours, where there's no need to change those hours, we can leave all these fields as they are. We can amend those fields. We can add additional base rates. We can add overtime. We can add, sorry, my phone's just locked. We can add allowances, we can manually overwrite tax, and we can also put in leave if they've taken it. But in this scenario, we'll just assume they haven't taken leave. They've worked a standard 38-hour week. So all we need to do is click on that Process Payroll button. And what this does, it simulates the payslip. So there is Captain Hook's payslip. Now, at this stage, nothing has been saved in the database and nothing has been written to the STP file. So it's quite useful. This allows you to see the calculations the system's doing. You have the option here of using the discard button, and it will take you back to the previous screen and you can amend those figures. So nothing's saved at this point. If you are happy with it, you can click on the send button. That will send the payslip to the employee, and it will line up this employee's details for the STP file. So I will click on send. And that's all there is to it for Captain Hook's payroll. So you can see up here now in our status bar, it's got a little tick next to Captain Hook. So we know we've done that payroll, and now we're on to Tinkerbell. So Tinkerbell's a casual employee who does 20 hours a week. Again, we can update those figures if we wanted to. But for this scenario, I'll just do a simple one. If we're happy with the details, we just need to click on Process Payroll. And once again, that will generate the payslip. Sorry, our test server's a bit slow today. And there's Tinkerbell's payslip. Again, we have the option to discard it if we pick up an error. If we're happy with it, we click on send, and it lines it up for the STP file and it sends it off to the employee. So now we can see we've got a tick next to both of those employees, and we can click on the finish button. And that completes step 3. So now we have run payroll, and the last step we have to do is submit the STP file. So when we click finish, it comes up with this screen that gives us a summary. So what it's basically saying to us is here are the details that are going to be compiled in the STP file. So you have another opportunity to check those details. You could at this stage go and delete a payslip and regenerate it if you picked up an error. But assuming you're happy with that, we click on Process Single Touch Payroll. It comes up with the declaration. So this is where we would enter our name. So I will type mine in. And then we click on that Lodge STP file with the ATO, and that file will go off. Now, I can't do that now because this test version is not connected to the ATO, but that's what we would do. And that is all there is to it. Sorry, I've got a call coming through, excuse me. And that would send the file through to the ATO. And that is all there is to it. So that is the 4 steps to submit your STP file. All the way from setting up the business, adding employees, running payroll, and submitting STP. Sorry, I'm not supposed to be receiving calls, but they're coming through. Okay, now, once we've done that, we can just check the status of that file. So I'm just going to back out of here and back to my payroll screen. Now, I'll just remind you of these icons again down the bottom. We have our, the first one again was employees. Second one where we are is process payroll. Third one is STP. So I'm just going to click on that. And firstly, we've got 2 tabs up here, outstanding, completed. So I'll just click on completed. This shows me a history of all the STP files that have been sent off and the date they were lodged. So they're the ones that are completed. I'll now click back on outstanding, and this is split into 2 parts. Firstly, we have pending ATO response. So these are files that have been sent off but haven't received the confirmation message back from the ATO that it's been successfully received. The ATO spec says that can take up to 24 hours, I believe. So when you see files in here, there is no action that's required. Might be worth checking the next day or checking an hour's time just to make sure they've gone through. We do expect it to be instantaneous. So really they should be immediately being completed, but the ATO hasn't guaranteed that. They've said it can take up to 24 hours. And then the top of the screen is where some intervention is required. So this is where potentially something's failed a validation, either within the Easy Payslip or at the ATO end. So what you would do, you click on this arrow here, and there are actually about 9 validations that are done. We can only see 3 here in this test system. What you would see those 9 validations. One of them, or at least one of them, would have a cross on them, which means it's failed, such as maybe an ABN wasn't recognised. What you would do, you would just click on that row, and it would take you in Easy Payslip to that part of the system where you maintain that field. So if there was an issue with the ABN, it would take you to the place where you maintain the ABN field. You would update that. You would come back here, and then you would just click on that Relodge STP file. And that's basically all there is to it. And that's basically how you do STP and payroll using the app. Now, what I will do now, I will jump out of there and I will jump into the website just to show you how it looks on the website. So, just to remind you, the website is exactly the same as the app, except we don't have that additional step to do STP at this point. So this is the actual live version of the website. So I'll just explain to you how it's similar to the app. So what I'm looking at here is the employer details. So it's the same. So we have the ABN, we have the email address, we have the address, we have the company name, and some contact details there. So that's looking at the company details. If I click on employee, there's our list of employees. So in this instance, I've actually got 10 plus a couple of inactive ones. And I'll show you what the employee record looks like. I'll go into Batman. So I select the employee and I've got a pencil here to edit. And you'll see it's structured very similar to the app. So here's the personal details. We've got payroll, taxes, super, and we can work our way through them by clicking on these options or by using that next button. So this is an hourly worker. Got entitlements up here. Again, that carryover balance there. Taxes and super information. So it's much the same as using the app. And now I'll go into payroll, and I'll just show you a slightly more complex scenario for payroll. So I'll select Batman. I'll put in the payroll date. So again, I'll do the 1st of the 6th to the 7th of the 6th. Again, I can select one employee, I can do multiple. In this instance, I'll just choose the one. So I'll just choose Batman and I'll click on process. Okay, now the screen is very similar. Now, in this employee record, I've said that they're entitled to overtime, they're entitled to leave, they're entitled to allowances. I've basically selected everything, and I've also given them some additional a spouse contribution, additional super. So basically, this gives us every option. So firstly, we choose the payment date, which I will make the 7th. Again, their rate defaults from the employee record, and they've got 38 hours. That's their standard base rate. What we can do here is we can add additional base rates, and we get this a lot from our hospitality customers, people who work in bars and cafes. So I'll just show you how we do that. We click on the plus. We select, there's up to 4 different rates you can add in addition to their standard base rate. So I'll select base rate 1. I'll say the rate is, say, 95 an hour, obviously very well paid. I'll say they're doing 4 hours of that rate. And then I click add. And what you see here is it's added this row here, this additional base rate 1. And you can always change that, or you can delete it with that trash can. So that's an additional base rate. We can also enter overtime. So we have some predefined overtime rates of 1.5 times or double time, or you could manually enter a rate such as triple time. So we'll do double time, and I put in they did 7 hours of double time. And then I'll click add, and again, it's added a row there. And then I'll also show you allowances. So we have some predefined allowances, travel and meals. We're adding to this list in July. And we also have a manual entry. So we'll put a manual entry. We can type in what that allowance is for. So let's say tools, put a quantity of 1, and we'll say it's $120. And then I'll click on add. And it's added that allowance there for tools and $120. And finally, let's just say this employee took a day's annual leave. So we'll put in 7.6 hours here. Now, what's important, if they're taking a day's annual leave, you need to reduce their standard hours. So I put in 7.6 hours leave, so their standard hours become 31.4. And the last option you have is manually overwriting PAYG or super. So if for whatever reason, it might be a large one-off payment that's going to throw out the tax, you do have the option of manually overriding the calculation that the system makes for super or tax. Just show you how that works. So this just allows you to put a figure in here. As soon as you put a figure in here, the system will take this figure for tax or for superannuation, and it will ignore the system-derived figure. But I won't actually do that in this instance, but it's as simple as putting a number in there. And then we click on process payroll. Forgotten a field, I've forgotten to put in payment type. So I'll click on EFT, and then again, I will click on process payroll. And again, just like the app, what this does is it generates a payslip. So again, nothing has been saved yet and nothing will be committed to the STP file when we're in July. This is the payslip. It allows you to check the figures. We still have the discard button if we're not happy with it. So as we've added all those different scenarios, such as an additional base rate here, overtime at double time, we've done some holiday pay, they're entitled to some leave loading, and we put in the allowance for tools. We've also got the tax figure here, shows us their annual leave and personal leave entitlements and their super. Now, if you recall, in the employee record for Batman, we had some salary sacrifice, an employee additional amount, and a spouse amount. Again, we can hit discard. It will take us back to the previous screen. Or if we hit send, it sends that payslip off to the employee and commits it to the database. So that's how we do it on the website. I will take some questions in a few minutes. I'll just show you one more thing. Actually, I'll show you two more things. I'll just show you reports. So we have a couple of different reports. We have the payroll activity summary and the payslips report. So in the payslips report, let's just select Batman. I'll put in a wide range. So I'll say from the beginning of April to the 30th of the 6th, and I'll process that report. And this shows us the two payslips within that period that I've selected. From here, we can open it. So just bring up that payslip again. We can resend it to the employee, or we can delete it. Now, at this point, you can delete it. When we've gone into STP, you won't be able to delete it once it's got onto it in an STP file. What we would do is we would do an adjustment. So we would update it in the next pay run, or we have the option of doing an adjustment in an off-cycle pay run. So I'll just go back to reports now, and I'll show you the payroll activity summary. So again, I'll choose Batman. I'll put in those same dates from the beginning of April, and we'll process that report. And here's that report. So it's only two payslips worth. It does the report by payslip. It gives us those totals there. And you can download that report. We're also probably in August, we're beefing up our reports a bit. So you'll have a couple of different options, and we're hoping you'll be able to extract them in an Excel format or CSV. So that's something that's coming in the future. And lastly, I'll just show you settings. So under settings, you have access to a few forms. So the tax file number declaration, the super form. You also have this notifications button. Now, this allows us, so by default, every payslip gets sent to the employee and the employer. If you click no here, it allows you to put in an alternate email address. So you can have your bookkeeper receive payslips or someone else. Same with employee. You are able to turn that off or put in an alternate email address there. Okay, so that's the system demonstrations I wanted to do. I just want to tell you one thing, just a bit of insight about our customers, and then I'll take some questions. So we've learned a lot from our customers lately. We call all our customers within a couple of days of them signing up, just to see how they're going, to offer any technical help, that sort of thing. And we get a lot of useful feedback. So what we found, we actually have a lot of the typical non-office based people, tradies, that sort of thing. Now, some of them are very tech savvy, and they've come across us, not through any advertising or marketing they've done, but they actually go to the App Store and they search for the word payslips. So these are people who are used to actually running their businesses from their mobile phones. So they actually go in there looking for that kind of technology. And they really like the fact they can do it anywhere. So they can do it when they're on holidays, they can do it in front of the couch when they're watching the footy, that sort of thing. What we've also found lately, and this is some feedback we've got from bookkeepers as well, we find we've got lots of clients who are not very tech savvy, but are using this, or, you know, at the behest of their bookkeepers, as an introduction, as a way to start getting used to using technology. So the ATO has this big push for the digital office, and Easy Payslip, we found, is a nice, easy way for them to start using technology for these sorts of things, to move away from either the shoebox with receipts or the carbon copies, or even old sort of Excel spreadsheets. We also had recently, we've got a elderly lady who'd never owned a PC before, who runs a little motel, bought her first PC, and is now up and running with Easy Payslip. What we found recently with STP is we've had a different type of client coming through. So we've got lots of professionals, things like lawyers, doctors, optometrists, IT consultants, These are people who fall into a couple of categories. So they are office-based people who don't necessarily want to have to be in their office all the time. They are also, what was quite surprising to me, is they were people who have existing systems, complex systems that do some accounting, that do their appointment management, that do some of the other industry-specific functions. And they're using Easy Payslip because they don't want to change those systems. They see this as a small problem, and they see Easy Payslip as a small solution to that problem. So as opposed to redoing and retraining their staff and upgrading all their other systems, they're looking for something where they can leave their existing systems that they're perfectly comfortable with as they are, and then start using Easy Payslip as a simple way to solve this STP compliance issue. Okay, so that's all I've got. I'd like to put it out there and see if there are any questions. Now, if I jump back into the webinar, I heard a few beeps along the way, so let's just go and have a look, see if there are some questions there. Okay, so does the app have the capacity to record entitlements and calculate roster days off? So we do not currently do roster days off. We have had a few requests from that just recently. So again, it's the sort of thing we'll be looking at in future, but it's not something we do at the moment. The next one from an anonymous attendee. Is there a closing time for reporting each pay event? Not that I'm aware. My understanding, and I'll put this back to Sam in a moment, is that you need to report each pay event on the day you make the payment or before. And I will just point out one advantage, one thing we get from our customers is they're able to do this STP, or run their payroll when they're on holidays. They literally jump onto the app for 5 minutes and it takes care of their pay slips, and in future that will take care of their STP as well. Sam, did you want to jump in there as far as closing times? I'm not aware of any closing time.
No, I think they were asking maybe specifically for the app, but no, it's as long as it's the day of or before.
Okay, thanks, Sam. The next one from Deborah. Are you able to add overtime hours? Yeah, so if you recall, we have a couple of predefined rates for overtime. So we have 1.5 times and we have double time. So you choose that and you just enter the number of hours. Or if you choose manual, then you can choose, for example, 3 times, and it will just multiply that by the standard base rate that's held in the system. Okay, from Phil, where's the EasyPay database held? So it's actually held in a Microsoft Azure database, which is a cloud-based solution. So it's using this Microsoft, I guess you call it Microsoft Web Services. So it's actually held in the cloud. Microsoft obviously are a big international company. They have a big presence in Australia as well. I couldn't tell you exactly where that physical cloud is located, but it's using that technology. I can tell you everything else about the company is held in Sydney, in our offices in Sydney, where we work. So we're just an Australian company, and we do all our support and all our development, all that sort of thing from that office in Sydney. And then another one from Phil about backup. So within that Azure infrastructure, there are automatic backups that happen. So the user does not need to do that backup. And that comes with the standard services we purchase in Microsoft, which is where our database is held. Okay, another one from Phil. If you hit the discard button, do you have to start the pay run again, or can you go back and edit information already entered? So when you hit the discard button, I'll just see if I can jump in there. I'm not actually sharing, am I? I'll just show you what I mean. Sam, I'm just going to share my screen again for a moment. Let's go Batman again. So this is the payroll screen. We hit process payroll, it comes up with a pay slip. If we hit discard, it takes us back to this screen with whatever values we've entered here. So it'll allow you, if there's just one figure you need to change, it will just allow you to go and update that figure. Okay. Okay, from Deborah. Is it possible to not show the personal leave accrued on the payslip? So we've actually had that request from a few customers lately, not at this stage, but we're looking at implementing a checkbox. We looked into this and it's not a requirement one way or the other. So it's not, the ATO doesn't say you have to, but it basically says you can. So at the moment it happens by default. We're looking at implementing an option so it doesn't show. Also from Deborah, what type of files can be imported? I'm not sure what you mean by that. So at this stage, we don't have a import facility. Perhaps you're referring to uploading employee details. What you can do when you add an employee, you can import you can import people from your contacts list in your phone. So it'll pull in their phone number, their address, whatever you hold against that contact on your mobile device. And then from Peter, does the app fully handle ETP requirements? No, we don't at this stage. We did look into that initially, but we haven't gone with that at the moment. So we can't actually do those complex ETP requirements at this stage. Excuse me. Okay, from anonymous attendee. Is there a way to save the pay and log off so an authorised person can send the STP report and or email the pay slips? That's a very good question. So you can certainly save the pay slips without submitting the STP file. So I don't want to tell you something that I'm not 100% sure of. So I will make a note of this and get back to you. My understanding is you can produce the pay slips, which saves the pay slips. That extra step where you go and submit the STP file is an independent step. So you should still be able to log on as a separate user and do that. But again, I will get back just to confirm. I'm certain you can do that, but I'll just get back to you to confirm exactly how that will work. I imagine it's just clicking on that STP tab and the file should be waiting there. And from Rebecca, can I confirm this app can be used for any business payroll, but for STP reporting, it can only be used if you have 4 employees or less? No, there's actually unlimited employees. So our plan for $8.80 is for 1 to 4 employees. For $12.95, you go up to 6 employees. For $19.95, you can go up to 10 employees. And once you're on the 10 plan, you can then add as many additional employees as you like for $2 a month each. And surprisingly, we actually have a number of people we've got one customer that has 30 employees. We've got quite a few with 20. And it was actually a bit of a surprise to us. And we sort of investigated. And as I mentioned before, these are people who have other systems that do their accounting and their administration, often industry-specific solutions that they're quite comfortable with, and they don't want to go through the process of upgrading those systems for the purpose of STP. So they've got on board with Easy Payslip in order just to do this STP stuff. Okay, that's all the questions I can see. And I believe I've gone 2 minutes over time. Anything else you'd like to cover, Sam, or any other questions you had or information you think I should be sharing with our audience?
I think just to recap is just to show everyone here again, just give me a moment. So if we go to, just so there's something on the screen. Just a reminder to everyone that you can access the STP webinars under the resources section here. Hit STP webinar and you see all the historic ones there as well as the current one. Today's session is recorded, so we'll be uploading that, and make sure you check out the templates and checklist section to view all the resources. So I don't want to keep everyone, know it's a very busy time of year for you. So I'd just like to thank everyone for attending, and thank you to Paul Sharp for representing Easy Payslip today and giving us that great presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.